You know that feeling when you scroll through a dozen Workbench listings, see glossy photos of massive steel frames and promise-filled bullet points, and then the thing you actually get feels like a wobble-prone kitchen table? I've been there spending a weekend trying to assemble a cheap bench that can't even hold a decent drill press without creaking. That frustration is why I'm digging into the Durham Steel Super Heavy-Duty Workbench today, so you can avoid the looks great online, falls apart in the shop trap. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about the environment this bench is built for. If you run a small woodworking shop, a hobbyist metal fabrication corner, or even a garage where you store power tools and do occasional repairs, you need a surface that doesn't shift when you're tightening a bolt or cutting a piece of timber. The Durham model comes fully assembled, which is a big relief compared to the usual, you have to bolt everything together nightmare. You just roll it out of the box, place it on a flat floor, and you're ready to start. That immediacy alone saves a few hours of frustration that many other benches demand. The first thing you'll notice is the sheer thickness of the top. A 14-inch steel plate welded to a 3-inch channel frame isn't something you see on a typical hobby bench. In practice, that translates to a surface that barely flexes, even when you're clamping a 2x4 and applying a strong torque wrench. I tested it by setting up a small benchtop router and running it at full speed while feeding 2x4s through a guided fence. The bench stayed rock solid. There was no audible vibration, and the router's own weight didn't cause any sagging. For anyone who does repetitive drilling or sanding, that stability is a real time saver because you don't have to constantly readjust your clamps. Another practical element is the 29-inch deep shelf that sits 10 inches above the floor. It's not just a storage shelf, it's a functional staging area. I used it to hold a collection of sandpaper, a set of hand tools, and a small parts bin while I was working on a table saw blade replacement. Because the shelf is at a comfortable height, I never had to stoop down or reach over the edge of the work surface to grab something. That small ergonomic win adds up over a day of back-to-back projects. Durham's powder coat finish also deserves a mention. In a shop where you're constantly spilling oil, coolant, or even the occasional splash of paint, a finish that chips or peels quickly becomes a maintenance headache. The gray powder coat on this bench has held up after a couple of weeks of heavy use, with only a few surface marks where I accidentally dropped a steel pipe. It's not a protective coating that promises to repel everything, but it does a respectable job of resisting rust and keeping the bench looking professional. Now, let's address the elephant in the room, the price and the capacity claim. The spec sheet touts a 14,000-pound capacity, which sounds like you could park a car on it. In reality, the useful capacity is dictated by the type of load and how it's distributed. If you try to load one corner with a single massive object, say, a 3,000-pound engine block, you'll quickly notice the frame starts to flex. The bench shines when the load is spread evenly across the top, like when you're running a sheet metal brake or placing several workpieces side by side. So, if you're looking for a bench to hold one gigantic, static object, you might be better off with a purpose-built lifting table. Who should buy this bench? If you're a serious DIYer who frequently uses heavy machinery bench grinders, small CNC routers, or a table saw and you need a platform that can take repeated pounding without wobbling, the Durham Super is a solid investment. Its fully assembled state, thick steel top, and generous shelf make it a convenient hub for a variety of tasks. It also works well for small commercial workshops that need a reliable bench for multiple users. The sturdy frame can handle the constant traffic without showing wear after a few months. Who should skip it? If your projects are primarily lightweight like assembling electronics, painting canvases, or occasional screwdriving, this bench might be overkill. The size, 36 inches deep, 72 inches wide, takes up a substantial footprint, so a compact apartment or a cramped garage could find it too dominant. Also, if you're on a tight budget and only need a bench for occasional hobby work, you might find more cost-effective options that still meet your needs without the extra heavy-duty specs. One hidden trade-off that shows up after the first month is the bench's height. At 34 inches off the floor, it's a comfortable standing work height for most adults, but it can be a bit high for someone who prefers to sit while working on detailed tasks. I tried adding a rolling chair to the setup, and the chair's wheels caught on the lower,